Paper Flowers, Chapter 2. The Prince's Enemy. You sit in your room, relaxing before dinner. Homework's done, and social media isn't going to check in on itself. You are replying to a post one of your friends placed on their wall when a notification pops up. Thomas Sanders just posted a new video. You smile as you finish your message and click the notification. Thomas is one of your favorite creators, and it's insane what he can do in 6 seconds. The first thing that you notice is that it is a return of the prince character. It makes you smile. Who doesn't love a real-life Disney prince? "Stop, you fiend!" the prince declares, standing in what looks like an old concrete building, which probably was meant to create the illusion of an old fortress. Then the angle shifts and... Wait, that's not one of Thomas's friends playing a villain. That's Thomas, wearing a black hoodie with the hood up to mimic a cloak, and black eyeshadow to make him look more threatening, which is a tall order for the human cinnamon bun. "Prince Dude, my arch nemesis," villain Thomas growls. Then the prince comes back into view. He looks shocked. "Wait," he dramatically brings a hand to his chest. "I'm your arch nemesis?" he asks. Why does he sound so emotional? Villain Thomas comes back into view and looks flustered. What? "Sorry, I didn't mean to assume." Wait, this is like someone calling their SO boyfriend or girlfriend for the first time. OMG, this is the cutest! "No!" Prince rushes as he comes back into view. "I just didn't." He sighs and shakes his head. "Shall we?" he asks as he raises his sword, ready to continue their battle. Villain Thomas comes back into view and smirks as he raises his own weapon and nods. "Prepare to die!" he declares, letting out a battle cry. The camera shows Prince again, who lets out a war cry of his own, charging in. And that's the end. You smile to yourself as you leave a like. You're curious what other fans think of this new character. Will he ever come back? You hope so. "Roman, it's so nice of you to include anxiety in the fun," Patton cheered when he found out about the new villain character. Virgil rolled his eyes. Of course Princey was getting praised. Not that it would occur to Patton how hard it had been for Virgil to agree to let Thomas use his aesthetic, his identity, to create a new character, or that his heart was racing at the thought of how much the fans would probably hate it. "Think nothing of it, Patton. I merely had the idea for a nemesis and figured that if Thomas played the character himself, it would minimize speculation of the fans on any hidden meaning behind the skits. They are almost more eager to see Thomas find a partner than I am. And none of our friends need that kind of attention on them. So when it came to picking out a look, anxiety's style seemed fitting. That's all," Roman explained, surprising Virgil. Roman was passing up on a chance to bask in the praise. Praise he deserved. Maybe. A little. Virgil knew that this whole thing was an olive branch from the prince to him. And honestly, it was kind of a fun skit. Thomas had a lot of fun making it. But here Roman was, downplaying his good intentions and how thoughtful he'd been about it. He'd asked Virgil's permission to do this. He never asked Logan or Patton to use their looks for the dad or the teacher character. "Speaking of the raisin cookie, anxiety," Roman called. Virgil looked up from where he was sulking against the kitchen counter. "What?" he scowled. "I have a few more skit ideas you'll probably want to criticize. Let's get that over with, shall we?" Roman suggested casually as he headed to his room. Virgil made a point to sigh and roll his eyes in annoyance, grumbling under his breath as he usually would. Patton might not pay enough attention to him to notice anything amiss, but Virgil was pretty sure Logan would ask questions if the two of them started to act too different. He entered the fanciful side's room and took a look around. It was a nice place, honestly, both similar and opposite to his room somehow. "So, how did you like the skit?" Roman asked eagerly. Virgil shrugged. "It was alright. Thomas really enjoyed it," he allowed. Roman grinned, happy he got some sort of positive feedback from the usually more sullen side. "And, it was really cool of you, what you said to Patton. You didn't have to. You deserved some sort of, praise, I guess. Even if you didn't know the real reason why you did," Virgil muttered then. Roman's eyes widened. Did Anxiety just praise him? He hadn't expected that. He'd corrected Patton because he didn't want Anxiety to think that he was using their truce to earn extra brownie points with the fatherly side. "Thank you, Anxiety," Roman bowed. "Don't mention it," Virgil shrugged awkwardly. There was a silence. Neither knew for sure how to continue from this point. Their interactions usually ended with one of them storming out of the room. Want to watch some TV until Thomas checks up on the comments?" Roman suggested. "Yeah, sounds good," Virgil nodded. Roman gestured to the couch and they sat down as far away from each other as possible. Virgil chuckled as he realized Roman had put on Avatar. "Is there a problem, Mr. Moodbender?" Roman asked tensely, clearly ready to call off the truce if Virgil criticized the show. The anxious man shook his head. "No, just surprised you're not putting on Disney." Roman rolled his eyes. "I can love things that aren't Disney, scorned king," he huffed. Virgil nodded. Princey had a point. They both mouthed along to the opening narration and smirked at each other while the intro music played. "So, what other things do you like, Princey?" Virgil started casually. Roman blinked in surprise. Happy surprise, that is. Anxiety was clearly making an effort, showing interest in making this truce evolve to a friendship. It was nice to know that he was not the only one invested in this. "Well, it should come as no surprise to you that I adore all things musical." Virgil looked around to all the playbills and smirked. "I would have never guessed," he teased, getting a pillow to the face, though it was clearly in good humor. "Sush!" Roman chuckled. "Anyway, as I was saying," Roman proceeded to talk about his favorite artists, some of which Virgil admitted to liking as well, and Virgil, in return, talked about his favorites as well. "Oh, wait!" Virgil suddenly interrupted as his attention was caught by the screen. Momo had entered the story. "This is the part where I got respect for this show," Virgil divulged. "Why is that?" Roman wondered. "Well, on the one hand, you have the first time you realize that Zuko isn't bad, 'cause he spares the commander's life. And on the other, the show literally looked at their demographic and said, you kids can handle some genocide. Here's an actual body, confirmed to belong to a character or protagonist cared about," Virgil explained. "They don't look down on the kids that watch the show, and they make that very clear very fast. I respect that." Roman thought about that, and he could see Anxiety's point. "Yes, I suppose they didn't hide their vision for the show at all," he nodded. They continued watching the episode in comfortable silence, both silently noting that they'd moved closer together during their conversation, now only leaving enough distance for both of them to still keep their personal bubble intact. "I guess it's been an hour now," Virgil muttered as the end credits played. Roman nodded as he paused the TV. Thomas would soon give in and see if anyone had reacted to his recent post. "It'll be alright. Worst case scenario, they don't like it and we don't bring the character back," Roman assured the youngest aspect. I'd be a little disappointed, because I have tons of ideas for your character. But we'll think of something else, he assured Virgil, not willing to give up on his plan to make Anxiety feel more wanted in some way because of one hypothetical setback. What if people stop following Thomas because... Anxiety, we've posted videos much more lower quality than this one, and they didn't make people run for the hills, Roman countered. Virgil nodded, but curled in on himself anyway. Roman sighed. Things are as they are. We can't change them now, so we might as well face the music, alright? Virgil took in a deep breath and nodded. That made sense. Okay, let's do this, he sighed. Roman smiled and nodded as they watched Thomas casually check notifications. Oh no, Virgil thought, as he could feel the way Thomas's heart skipped a beat when he saw all the likes and shares popping up. Comments! Roman cheered. And indeed, the fans had left several comments already. Some keyboard smashes, some big-eyed or heart-eyed emojis, some one-word exclamations like adorable, wholesome, and even perfection. Virgil couldn't help smiling as Thomas's excitement grew. He was about to be outed. He knew it. He didn't care much about that right now. Because someone demanded Thomas make more vines with his villain character, and another joke that they could call Disney because they found a new big hit Disney Channel show. He couldn't stop himself from letting out a soft sound of excitement as he played with the sleeves of his hoodie to release some energy. He wanted to jump up and down and scream. Thomas was so happy. By her, Mrs. Sandel's Anxiety, your eyeshadow! Roman exclaimed. He'd heard his fellow side's unrestrained excitement and had looked up, unable to pass up the chance to see the close-up side smile. He had not been ready for this. The layer of white foundation seemed to be less thick, revealing it was hiding freckles underneath. That was not the most important part, though. The usually black smudged eyeshadow was brilliant and sparkly in royal purple. Anxiety blushed upon being caught, but didn't really stop smiling. Yeah, that happens when Thomas gets excited. Don't make it a big deal. He shrugged. Roman nodded, understanding that Anxiety meant to ask him not to mention it to the others. He felt a sense of accomplishment well up inside him. Surely Anxiety had known there was a good chance Thomas would get excited upon seeing the responses to the skit. If he wanted it to be a secret, he could have excused himself and hid in his room until the effect wore off. But he hadn't. He'd stayed and taken the risk of being seen. Roman wondered what he'd said or done to make the hooded man want to open up like that. Maybe he'll ask, some other time. Anyway, good job, Roman. Seems you're stuck with me. Virgil winked as he got up, pulling his hood over his face so he could hide his state until he got to his room. Princey is stuck with a hooded fiend, Roman corrected. But I don't think he minds. And neither do I, he added, while he basked in the glow of the compliment. Virgil felt his smile widen just a bit as he saw how happy Roman was with all this. Once you gave him a chance, he wasn't that annoying. Virgil had found himself going from wanting someone to not hate him to wanting Roman to like him over the course of their conversation. Their truce had been tense and awkward up until now, but even so, it had been going surprisingly well. Virgil could tell Roman was looking out for him, by distracting the others when Virgil felt cornered by example. And Virgil had tried to help Princey out as well, making him go to bed, trying to push Thomas towards creating more content, and trying his hardest to not to be too, mean about actually posting it. And when he sensed Roman was getting overwhelmed by the spotlight, he took the attention away from him too. And now he had shown Roman that he was right. There was more to him than just anxiety. Sometimes he was bright, bouncy, and sparkling excitement. It suits you, by the way, Roman added, yanking Virgil back to the present. Virgil froze for a second, finding he had gotten to the door and already had his hand on the door handle. Thanks. See you later, he muttered before rushing out. He was about to enter his room when he heard someone else call out to him. Anxiety, kiddo! Are you and Roman finished? The question was friendly enough in and of itself. But as always, Patton sounded tense when talking to him, which set Virgil on edge. He wasn't that scary, right? What did he do to make Patton so scared to be around him? Sure, he was trying to make them keep some distance, but he was going for cautious, not this. He didn't know what he had done, and he wasn't willing to risk repeating it, so he was careful about keeping enough distance between himself and the resident dad as a rule. Now he had an extra reason, though. Virgil nodded, not looking up. Patton's presence might make him nervous in a less fun way, but a comment that called his character adorable flashed through his mind and set loose another swarm of butterflies. He was definitely still sparkly, and if Patton saw, he'd ask about it, and Virgil would have to explain, trapping both of them in this conversation far longer than either wanted. Worse, what if seeing evidence of a less broody side of him made Patton feel like he had to make an effort? He'd already managed to make Princey feel like he had to be kind to him, and sure, that might be turning into something genuine, but that didn't mean things would work out so well for the others. Another door opened. Padre, there you are! I was just about to come looking for you. I had the most marvelous idea. Chanced a glance at the hallway and saw Roman drag a surprised Patton into his room. The prince locked eyes with him for a second and gave him a reassuring smile and a wink. Virgil nodded, sending Roman a grateful half-smile before entering his room. Virgil had spent mostly all of Thomas's happiest moments in this room. Partly to hide the secrets, first from Jay and Rem, who probably tease him about it, and now from Thomas's golden tree, who would never take him serious again if they knew. Or well, two of them. Roman knew now. Anyway, there was another reason. This room was very nice to be in when excitement dominated Virgil's functions. It was the same, but lighter. The curtains were open, the clock was no longer a maddening reminder of the never-ceasing passage of time, and the spider web sparkled with dewdrops. Virgil took in a deep breath. Even the air was more breathable. What was it he wanted to scream about again? Right. He let himself belly flop onto his bed and screamed. The Sanders liked it, and more importantly, Roman might actually be his friend. He could relate to the villain character right now. Were they friends? They had each other's back, had bonded over common interests, shared a secret. Would Roman consider them friends? Maybe he was getting ahead of himself due to the butterflies, but it was definitely going that way. Virgil turned around in his bed and looked up at the ceiling with a smile. This was different than with Janice and Remus. They'd grown up together. They had to tolerate each other. But this was some sort of proof that he was likable. Roman didn't have to hang out with him. He'd seen something in him and chosen to give him a chance. He didn't have to compliment him, but he did, and he didn't turn it on himself right away as he tended to do. Remus and Janice they just tended to trigger him more often than not. Not on purpose, he knew that, but he'd started having his meals upstairs for a reason. He shook off that thought. It wasn't important. He'd catch up with them later today or something. He was sure they'd have something to say about the video. Maybe some of them would even be genuinely nice. He smiled to himself. Look at him being optimistic. He was curious, though, what he'd find around the river bends.